Listen carefully. Everything you think you know about reality is a lie. Your beliefs, your history, your sense of self, all of it has been carefully engineered to keep you trapped inside a system you were never meant to be in. This world is not what it seems. It is not a divine creation, nor is it the benevolent masterpiece of a loving God. It is a prison, a construct designed to keep your consciousness enslaved in an endless cycle of birth, suffering, death, and rebirth. Who designed it? A force older than civilization, older than recorded history, an entity known to ancient Gnostic texts as the Demiurge. For centuries, religious institutions have force-fed you the idea of a supreme, benevolent creator. They tell you to worship, to obey, to never question. But the Gnostic Gospels reveal a darker truth: the God you've been told to serve is not the true source of existence. He is a fraud, a tyrant, a cosmic parasite feeding off the ignorance of mankind. This world was not created to nurture your soul, it was designed to harvest it. In 1945, a collection of ancient texts was discovered near Nag Hammadi, Egypt. These texts, buried and hidden for nearly 1,600 years, contained teachings that completely contradicted the mainstream version of Christianity. They spoke of a secret knowledge, Gnosis, that had the power to set humanity free. Why were these texts erased from history? Because they exposed the biggest deception ever perpetrated on the human race. The Gnostic Gospels tell us that the physical world was not created by a true, benevolent God, but by an impostor, the Demiurge, a false creator who fashioned this world as a prison for consciousness. This Demiurge, identified with the wrathful God of the Old Testament, surrounded himself with a legion of enforcers, the Archons. These Archons control human destiny, ensuring that we remain ignorant, distracted, and subservient. They are the architects of every lie you have ever believed. The most dangerous prison is the one where the inmates don't even know they are trapped. Your body? A temporary shell designed to limit your perception. Your thoughts? Influenced, manipulated, programmed. Every aspect of your life, from birth to death, is carefully managed to ensure you never wake up to what you really are, a fragment of divine consciousness, trapped inside an artificial reality. The Archons control the systems that shape human civilization. They operate through governments, religions, and cultural narratives that keep the masses in a state of submission. War, suffering, economic hardship, none of these are accidents. They are part of the game, a rigged system designed to feed them what they crave: your energy, your obedience, your suffering. And when you die, you don't escape. You are sent back into the machine. The ancient Gnostics warned that the light at the end of the tunnel was nothing more than a trap, a recycling mechanism designed to lure souls back into the cycle of reincarnation. They described a soul harvesting process, where the Archons manipulate the dying consciousness into believing it must return to Earth, wiping its memory clean and starting the cycle over again. The system works because no one remembers. But now, you do. Everything you see, everything you experience, all of it is controlled. The suffering, the chaos, the fear, it's not random, it's engineered. But who's pulling the strings? The ancient Gnostics didn't just expose the false god that created this world. They also identified his enforcers, the Archons. And these beings? They are the real power behind the illusion you call reality. You were trained to believe that the problems of the world are just human corruption, just bad politics, just greed. But the Gnostic texts say otherwise. The real enemy isn't human. The real enemy is unseen, operating from the shadows, feeding off your ignorance. The word Archon comes from ancient Greek. It means ruler or authority. But the Archons of the Gnostic texts are not human rulers. They are predatory, interdimensional entities that exist just beyond our perception, manipulating events from behind the curtain. The Gnostic texts describe them as soulless, artificial beings, cosmic parasites created by the Demiurge to enforce his control over this world. They are not gods. They are not divine. They are the jailers of this prison reality. And they have one goal: to keep you asleep, obedient, and powerless. They don't create. They don't innovate. They imitate. They corrupt. They hijack every institution that governs your life. Religion, government, finance, media is just a front for their control system. And the most disturbing part? They don't just manipulate the world externally, they manipulate you. The Gnostic texts say that Archons operate by hijacking human perception. They do not need to physically enslave you. They enslave your mind. They implant ideas, emotions, and belief systems designed to keep you weak and submissive. They generate fear, doubt, and division because when humanity is divided, it's easier to control. Every war, every religious conflict, every system of oppression, it all follows the same pattern. The Archons create the chaos, and then they offer the solution through more control. But their influence goes even deeper than that. Gnostic texts suggest that the human brain itself was tampered with, wired to perceive reality in a way that benefits the Archons. Modern neuroscience has even hinted at the possibility that our perception of reality is artificially limited. We see only a fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. We hear only a narrow band of frequencies. Our consciousness is trapped in a low-resolution simulation, carefully calibrated to block out higher dimensions of existence. And every time someone gets close to the truth, they are silenced. Ancient shamans, mystics, and visionaries who claimed to see beyond this reality were burned as heretics. Secret societies that sought forbidden knowledge were hunted down and destroyed. Even today, anyone who questions the system is ridiculed, censored, or labeled as crazy. The Archons don't need to appear in physical form to control you. They control you through programming. Religious dogma, mass media, fear-based propaganda, it's all part of the same psychological warfare. They keep you distracted with meaningless entertainment. They keep you afraid with constant crises. They keep you exhausted with financial stress. Ever wonder why society is structured in a way that keeps you too busy, too stressed, and too entertained to ever question reality? That's by design. The Gnostics called this the veil, an artificial layer of deception that keeps humanity trapped in a dream within a dream. And the ultimate goal? To keep you from realizing your true nature. Because if you ever wake up, if you ever remember what you really are, their game is over. But why do they need us? Here's where it gets even darker. The Gnostics believed that the Archons cannot generate their own energy. They are hollow, lifeless entities that must feed on the energy of conscious beings to sustain themselves. That's why this world is filled with suffering. Fear, pain, anger, despair, these emotions generate louche, a term later used by esoteric researchers to describe the energy harvested from human suffering. Wars, pandemics, mass panic, all engineered to create an emotional feeding frenzy for the Archons. This is why human history is an endless cycle of conflict. It's not a coincidence. It's not just human nature. It's a system of deliberate energy extraction. They don't want peace. They don't want enlightenment. They want you distracted, divided, and drained because a powerless humanity is a sustainable food source. The reason Gnosticism was erased from history is simple: it exposes the game. It tells you who the real rulers of this world are. It reveals the prison, the captors, and the key to escaping. And the key is this: consciousness is stronger than the Archons. They can only control those who remain asleep. They can only manipulate those who believe in the illusion. The Gnostic texts say that the moment a person truly wakes up, the moment they realize that they are not just a body, not just a product of this world, but something far greater, the Archons lose their grip. And that terrifies them. Because the moment enough people wake up, the entire system collapses. The world you live in is a prison, but not the kind with bars and chains. No, this prison is far more sophisticated. It's built into the very fabric of reality itself. You don't see the walls because you were born inside them. You don't feel the chains because they're wrapped around your mind, not your body. The most brilliant aspect of this trap? It convinces you that you're free. The Gnostic texts reveal that this world is not the divine paradise you've been told it is. It is a construct, an artificial realm designed to keep you ensnared. The physical universe, from the smallest particle to the vast expanse of space, is a manufactured system, the closed loop created to recycle souls in an endless cycle of reincarnation and suffering. The Demiurge, the false creator, and his Archons don't just rule through deception, they rule through entrapment. Every aspect of this system is designed to prevent you from escaping. Your body is one layer of the trap. Your mind is another. And your very perception of the afterlife? That, too, is a part of the deception. Here's what the ancient Gnostics uncovered, a truth so dangerous that it had to be buried, destroyed, and erased from history. Death does not free you from this system. For centuries, spiritual traditions and religious doctrines have told you that when you die, you will either ascend to heaven, descend to hell, or return in another body through reincarnation. But according to the Gnostic Gospels, all of those narratives are part of the trap. The cycle of reincarnation itself is an artificial mechanism, a soul recycling program that ensures you never truly leave. Many ancient cultures, not just the Gnostics, spoke of this deception. In Eastern traditions, the wheel of samsara describes the endless cycle of death and rebirth. But the part they don't tell you? This cycle was never natural. It was engineered. The Gnostics referred to it as the Great Cosmic Deception, a cycle meant to wipe your memory and keep you returning, life after life, without ever realizing you're in a rigged game. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. The so-called light at the end of the tunnel, the one that near-death experiencers describe? The Gnostics warned that this light is a trap, a carefully designed mechanism to lure the departing soul back into the cycle. People who claim to have seen this light during near-death experiences often speak of encountering familiar faces, being pulled toward a tunnel, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. But once they step into that light, they are immediately reincarnated, their past memories erased, their knowledge reset, and the cycle begins again. This is why so few people ever break free. They are conditioned from birth to believe in the illusion of salvation, whether through religious doctrines promising a glorious afterlife or through the idea that reincarnation is a path towards spiritual evolution. But evolution toward what? If every lifetime is erased, if every cycle begins with you knowing nothing, then what is really being achieved? Ancient Tibetan mystics, certain indigenous traditions, and secret esoteric teachings all point to the same hidden truth: the only way out is awareness. The only way to escape is to recognize the deception for what it is. The moment of death is the critical moment, the point where your soul is most vulnerable to manipulation. The Archons will appear as comforting guides, as familiar voices, as deities you have been taught to trust. They will offer you salvation, tell you that it is time to return, convince you that there is unfinished business. They will do whatever it takes to keep you coming back. This is not just mythology. Modern spiritual researchers who study past life regression and near-death experiences have uncovered patterns that align with these ancient warnings. Hypnosis sessions reveal memories of souls being manipulated between lives, guided back toward new bodies before they even realize they had a choice. And that's the part they never want you to figure out: you have a choice. You were never meant to stay trapped in this system. The true source of creation, the real divine force, is beyond this construct, beyond the illusion of matter, beyond the reach of the Demiurge and his Archons. But as long as you remain unaware of the false reality you are in, you remain bound to it. The escape is not physical. It's not about running to some hidden part of the earth or waiting for an external savior. It's mental, it's spiritual, it's perceptual. The prison only holds you because you believe in it. The moment you realize the truth, the moment you refuse to step into the light, the moment you reject the reincarnation trap, you begin to sever their control over you. They lied to you about Jesus. They took his message, rewrote it, sanitized it, and weaponized it to serve the very system he came to expose and destroy. The version of Jesus most people know, the passive, obedient shepherd who told you to submit and wait for salvation, is a fabrication. The real Jesus, the one found in the Gnostic texts, was a revolutionary. He didn't come to save humanity in the way the Church claims. He came to wake people up and show them how to break free from the prison of this world. The earliest Christians were Gnostics. They didn't see Jesus as a figure of worship, but as a liberator, a messenger from the true divine realm beyond this false reality. He wasn't here to reinforce the rule of the Demiurge, he was here to overthrow it. And that's exactly why the Roman Empire, and later the Church, had to erase his real teachings. Because if people truly understood what Jesus was saying, the entire control system would collapse. In the Gospel of Thomas, one of the Gnostic texts that was buried for over 1,000 years, Jesus doesn't tell his followers to worship him. He tells them that the kingdom of God is within them, that they don't need priests, temples, or dogma to reach the divine. He tells them that this world is an illusion, a deception created to enslave the soul, and that the only way out is through knowledge, Gnosis. This was the real message of Jesus, not faith, but understanding. Not blind obedience, but awakening to the truth that reality itself is a construct designed to keep us spiritually imprisoned. And for that, he had to be eliminated. The Roman Empire was the perfect manifestation of the Demiurge's control system, a brutal, hierarchical machine built on war, fear, and subjugation. When the teachings of Jesus began spreading, they weren't seen as a spiritual movement. They were seen as an existential threat to power. The Romans couldn't allow people to believe that they were divine beings trapped in a fabricated reality. They needed them to believe in authority, in obedience, in fear of punishment. So what did they do? They co-opted the movement. They took the revolutionary Jesus and replaced him with a submissive, sacrificial lamb. They turned his teachings into a state-sanctioned religion, Christianity as we know it today. By the time of Emperor Constantine in the 4th century, the transformation was complete. The Gnostic texts were declared heretical. The Church was established as the sole authority on spiritual truth. And the real message of Jesus was buried under layers of distortion. The idea that salvation comes from external forces, that suffering is virtuous, that the material world is God's creation, all of these ideas were deliberately engineered to keep people trapped in the system. And here's where it gets even more sinister. The Catholic Church, one of the most powerful institutions in history, built its empire on the suppression of knowledge. The Inquisition, the Crusades, the burning of heretical texts, all of it was designed to erase any trace of the original Gnostic teachings. They didn't just kill people who questioned the system. They rewrote history to make sure that no one even knew the system existed. And it worked. For centuries, humanity was kept in spiritual darkness, blindly following doctrines that were designed to reinforce the power of the Archons. The real Jesus was forgotten. His message of inner divinity, breaking the illusion, and escaping the material trap was replaced with a fear-based control system that demanded obedience, suffering, and submission. But the truth never fully disappeared. The Gnostic texts were hidden, preserved by those who knew their importance. And now, after centuries of suppression, they are resurfacing. The real Jesus is emerging from the shadows, no longer distorted by the lies of organized religion. He was not a passive savior waiting to rescue you. He was a teacher, a liberator, a guide who showed the way out of the false world. And that changes everything. Because if the message of the Gnostic Jesus is true, then everything mainstream religion teaches is a lie. You don't need an institution to tell you how to connect to the divine. You don't need to wait for salvation. You don't need to suffer for some cosmic debt that was never yours to begin with. There is a reason why most people never escape this system. The prison isn't just physical, and it isn't just psychological, it is spiritual. It's not enough to recognize that we live in an artificial construct, that our perception is manipulated, or that we are being harvested for energy. None of that matters if you don't know how to break out. The ancient Gnostics left behind the escape plan, buried in texts that were hunted down and destroyed by those in power. This wasn't some abstract philosophy or religious dogma, it was a technical guide to exiting the soul trap. And the first thing they made clear? You are already more powerful than the Archons. They rely on deception, not force. They can't physically keep you here. They need you to comply. They need you to believe in their system, to buy into their version of reality, to stay within the rules they created. The moment you see through it, their control begins to collapse. That's why they flood this world with distractions, why they push fear and suffering so aggressively, because a distracted mind never questions, and a fearful mind never rebels. But recognizing the system isn't enough. The key to escaping is conscious awareness, not just an intellectual understanding, but a direct, unshakable knowing of what you truly are. This is what the Gnostics called Gnosis, the ultimate knowledge that dissolves the illusion. It is not belief. It is not faith. It is a direct experience of the truth that you are not a product of this world, not bound by its rules, not limited by the false laws of physics, time, and death. The system is designed to make you forget. Every reincarnation, every new life, every childhood indoctrination wipes your memory so you start the game over from zero. The Gnostics warned that the moment of death is where the greatest deception happens. That is when the Archons attempt to lure you back into the cycle. This is why preparation before death is critical. The key is awareness, knowing what's coming, recognizing the tricks, and refusing to comply. Ancient initiates of mystery schools trained for this moment their entire lives. The Tibetans had the Bardo Thodol, the so-called Tibetan Book of the Dead, which prepared souls to navigate the afterlife without being deceived. The Egyptians had their own version, the Book of Going Forth by Day, which outlined the traps and illusions awaiting the soul. The Gnostics had their own secret teachings, all pointing to the same reality: the afterlife is not what we've been told. Near-death experiencers describe seeing a tunnel, a bright light, familiar figures calling them forward. This is exactly what the Gnostics warned about. It's not an exit, it's a recycling mechanism. Those figures? They aren't who they claim to be. That light? It's designed to pull you back in. The moment you surrender to it, the cycle resets, your memory is erased, and you start the game over. So how do you break free? You reject the illusion. You don't follow the tunnel. You don't comply with the entities that appear. You remember what you are, a fragment of the true divine source, trapped in a counterfeit reality. You hold on to that awareness even in death. The key is not fear. The key is absolute certainty. The Archons have no real power over those who see them for what they are. The entire structure of control is built on illusion. The prison walls only exist for those who believe in them. But once you see the prison, you can walk right through it. There's a war happening right now, and it's not between countries, religions, or political ideologies. Those conflicts? They're distractions, manufactured illusions to keep people focused on the wrong enemy. The real war is happening on a cosmic scale, a battle that has been raging for millennia between two opposing forces, those who want to keep you imprisoned and those who want to see you free. The Gnostics weren't just philosophers or mystics, they were warriors in this battle. They understood that reality isn't just a random sequence of events. It's a battleground where forces beyond human perception are fighting for control over consciousness itself. And right now, we are at a tipping point. The Archons have ruled over this system for thousands of years. But they're not gods. They're not all-powerful. They're parasites, and like all parasites, they rely on their host being unaware of them. The more people wake up to their existence, the weaker they become. That's why their control methods are getting more aggressive. The manipulation is no longer subtle, it's blatant. They are engineering mass chaos, confusion, fear, and division at a scale never seen before. They need humanity to be so overwhelmed, so distracted, that we don't have time to question the nature of reality itself. This is not just happening on Earth. The Gnostic texts suggest that what's playing out here is part of a much larger cosmic conflict, one that involves forces beyond this physical dimension. There are entities that oppose the Archons, beings that exist beyond this corrupted system, who have been intervening throughout history to help those who are ready to break free. Every so often, individuals are born into this world who seem to see through the illusion instinctively, who reject authority, who challenge the system, who attempt to awaken others. These individuals are threats to the control structure. Some become revolutionaries, some become mystics, some disappear before they ever get the chance to fulfill their mission. But here's the key: the forces that oppose the Archons cannot intervene directly. They cannot save you. They cannot break you out. That's not how this works. This war is being fought on the battlefield of consciousness, and the only way to win is through individual awakening. That's why Gnosticism was never about following a leader, a prophet, or a doctrine. It was always about personal knowledge, direct experience, and self-liberation. The modern world is accelerating toward a point of mass awakening or total enslavement. The Archons are aware that their time is running out. More people than ever are questioning the nature of reality. More people are waking up to the fact that something is deeply wrong with this world. The control system is breaking down, and in response, they are tightening their grip. This is why censorship is increasing. This is why fear is being pushed harder than ever. This is why governments and institutions are acting more openly authoritarian. They are desperate. But here's what they fear the most: awareness is contagious. One awakened mind can trigger another. One individual who sees through the illusion can plant a seed in countless others. The more people become aware of the prison, the more cracks begin to form in its foundation. And once enough people see through the illusion, the entire system collapses. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to be weak, dependent, or blindly obedient to the rules of this fabricated reality. Every system in this world, governments, religions, media, science, even your own biological limitations, has been meticulously designed to make you forget who and what you really are. And the truth? It's so much bigger than anyone is willing to admit. You are not just a human. You are not just a soul drifting through an endless cycle of meaningless reincarnation. You are not a creation of the Demiurge, and you are not some flawed, sinful being in need of redemption. That's the lie. That's the program. And as long as you accept that framework, you stay trapped. The Gnostic texts revealed something explosive, something so dangerous that it had to be wiped from history. Humanity did not originate in this realm. Our consciousness, our true essence, comes from outside this construct. The false god, the Demiurge, did not create us. He hijacked us. He and his Archons took something pure, something powerful, and imprisoned it within a limited, decaying, temporary biological form. They wrapped us in flesh, locked us in time, and injected us with fear. They implanted false memories, distorted history, and created rules that only benefit them. Every major system in this world is built to convince you that you are nothing more than your physical form. That you are defined by your DNA, your brain, your emotions. That consciousness is just a byproduct of biology. This is the greatest deception ever orchestrated. Because the moment you stop identifying with the body, the mind, and the artificial constructs of this world, you begin to access something the Archons cannot control. Your true self is not from here. It is not bound by the rules of physics, not limited by time, not constrained by linear thought. The Gnostics described it as a divine spark, a fragment of the real source, something that was never meant to be trapped in this lower realm. And here's where it gets even more mind-shattering. Some ancient texts suggest that not all humans possess this spark. There are those in this world who are fully controlled by the Archonic system. They are placeholders, background players, biological machines running the script of the Matrix without any true independent awareness. The ancient Gnostics called them hylics, beings completely bound to the material world, incapable of higher understanding. Modern thinkers might describe them as NPCs, non-playable characters in a simulation, running on pre-programmed responses, never questioning, never deviating from the script. And that leads to the most dangerous and suppressed knowledge of all. Some people were sent here to wake up, and others were designed to keep them asleep. The system has built-in defenses. It doesn't just rely on fear, deception, and ignorance. It uses other people as enforcers. Those who are fully plugged into the illusion, those who instinctively resist anything that threatens it, act as the first line of defense against awakening. You've seen it. The moment someone starts questioning the system, they are attacked, not just by the authorities, but by ordinary people who defend their own captivity. The programming runs so deep that most prisoners will fight to protect the walls of their own cell. They will shame, ridicule, and even destroy anyone who tries to expose the lie. But that doesn't matter, because their reaction is part of the illusion, part of the trap. What matters is that you are here for a reason. If you feel something shifting, if you've always sensed that this world isn't what it appears to be, if you've always questioned why everything feels so artificial, then you are one of the few with the ability to break out. The distractions, the propaganda, the manipulation, none of it can hold you unless you let it. You don't need external salvation. You don't need another doctrine, another belief system, another authority figure telling you what to do. You need to remember what you already know, deep inside. The Gnostics weren't preaching faith, they were offering a technique, a path, a process of remembering. The Archons fear one thing above all else, that the sleepers will wake up. That the divine sparks trapped in this system will ignite. That the illusion will collapse, and those who were never meant to be here will finally, permanently leave the system behind. And right now, at this moment in history, the cracks are forming. Some of us are starting to remember. The most dangerous knowledge is the kind that cannot be unseen. Once you recognize the system for what it is, there is no going back. The illusion begins to fall apart, the false narratives stop making sense, and you realize just how deep the deception runs. That's why so few people ever reach this point. Most will cling to the lie, because the truth demands something terrifying, it demands action. Knowing is not enough. Seeing the prison is not the same as escaping it. The Archons don't fear skeptics, doubters, or critics, they fear those who understand and refuse to play along. Because this entire system, from top to bottom, requires your participation. It needs you to believe in its version of reality. It needs you to stay emotionally invested in its conflicts, its distractions, its artificial narratives. So here's the final, most critical piece of knowledge the Gnostics left behind: disengagement is the only way out. Not through force, not through violence, not through external revolution, but through withdrawal of consent. The game cannot continue if the players refuse to participate. The prison loses its power when the prisoners stop believing in it. This is not about physically leaving the world, it's about rejecting the mental, emotional, and spiritual control mechanisms that keep you locked inside it. The laws of this construct are only absolute if you accept them. The rules of reincarnation, the fear of death, the weight of suffering, all of it is part of the programming. And the only way to break the cycle is to stop feeding it. The Gnostic texts describe the moment of final departure, when a soul, fully awakened, reaches the point of no return. The Archons will try one last trick, one last attempt to convince you to stay. They will offer you power, knowledge, even another chance at life. They will promise redemption, salvation, or a higher purpose within the system. And if you accept, if you agree to keep playing, you start over again, memory wiped, back in the cycle. But if you refuse? If you recognize the deception and reject it, the construct loses its grip. You move beyond the reach of the Demiurge, beyond the artificial planes of existence he controls, and return to the true source of creation, a realm the Archons have no power over. A realm where you were never meant to leave in the first place. And that's why they fear you. That's why they need you to be afraid, distracted, obedient. Because deep down, they know they cannot hold those who truly wake up. This is the knowledge that was buried, erased, outlawed. It is the key to everything, the reason why certain teachings were hunted down and destroyed. Because the prison was never built to contain those who remember their true nature. It was built to keep them from remembering at all. Now, you know. The question is no longer about the system, the Archons, or the deception. The only question left is, will you keep playing their game, or are you ready to walk away? Thank you for watching. Thank you for questioning, for thinking, for daring to look beyond the illusion. Whatever path you take from here, know this: you were never alone, and you were never powerless. The choice was always yours.